Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite makes the process of becoming a published best-selling author as simple as sipping your morning cup of coffee. You can learn more about Authors Unite at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today, I have a very good friend, Erinn McMurtrie. She's a self-taught painter and intuitive guide, teaching emerging leaders to use their connection to their body to amplify their intuition, creativity, and self-confidence. So welcome to the show, Erinn.
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Grateful to have you here. And for everybody listening, me and Erinn go, I wouldn't say way back, but we go way back in Encinitas. So I'm really excited to have her here. And we'll jump into the first one. The first question I have for you, Erinn, is what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
So I guess sort of the big shift in my life happened around my mid to early 20s. I was in a relationship with a man for 4.5 years, and we were engaged. And I had kind of felt this creeping feeling that it wasn't really fully a relationship that was supporting either of us. And so at some point, I just kind of had enough and was like, okay, I know that my life can be happier than what I have right now. I know I can have that. And so I decided to leave. And we were engaged. We had 2 dogs together. We had a fully integrated family. So it was really, really challenging and scary. And so kind of like the first step to me really actually making that happen was going to look at places to live. And I found a place on Craigslist where there was like 4 women in this awesome house. And I showed up, and basically they offered me the room like pretty much on the spot. And I was like, oh, this is the moment where I need to like actually make this decision. And so I remember just kind of asking myself, like, what would it feel like to do this? What would it feel like to say yes and to move into this house? And I felt this total rush of light energy, just like this expansive light openness in my heart feeling in my body. And I was like, okay, well, that felt really good. And I trust that. I trust that feeling. I'm going to follow that. And so I ended up leaving and moving into this house. And that just catapulted a whole huge ripple of basically the next chapter of my life and my purpose. So, really just trusting myself and following that feeling in my body. And that was something that I just kind of did intuitively, but actually now that's a big part of what I teach in a lot of my work.
Wow. I did not know that about you. And I'm glad that you made that decision.
Yeah, me too.
And the next one I have for you is, what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
Yeah. So along with, the story I just shared, I think what I would want to share with people is that we're all intuitive. We all have this ability to tap into intuition. Maybe some people are more easily tapped into it or naturally tapped into it than others, but the intuition and the body, I find these 2 components are very deeply linked. I would say they're married to each other. And the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize about intuition is that it works through the body. It speaks through the body. So your body is speaking to you all the time through sensations, through communication that doesn't necessarily come through words. And you are constantly speaking to your body. So you're giving your body, your cells, instructions for how to manifest, how to express themselves through your health and all of that. So when you're saying out loud, oh, I'm getting old, or oh, I'm, this or that, or you're spewing different beliefs about what it means to be a certain age or whatnot, you're actually giving your body instructions. So what I would want people to know is that they have a lot more control over the way that their body and their issues and their health is manifesting than they actually realize.
Wow, I'm actually really happy that you just said that because I just turned 27 and I've been telling people I'm like, yo, I'm closer to 30 and I know 30 is not old. I don't even think like 60 is really old, but like getting closer to 30, like there's this feeling I've been having where I'm like, I'm feeling like older. Like it's like 30 is like a real number. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should say I'm feeling young. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, or like what are the beliefs that we have about what it means to be 30 or what it means to be 60 or whatever it is. I've even played around with telling your
Yeah.
body like, hey, 100 is a lifespan that is just made up. So what if we were actually to extend our lifespan to 150 or 200? Like, what if we just aged every other day instead of every day? So
Mm.
yeah, these are just all these cool things that you can play around with, giving your body instructions.
Which is cool because like I actually, and on top of that, like with all the like technological advances and like health advances and everything, like that's actually I think very possible for us to maybe hit 150. So yeah,
Absolutely.
30 is like 10. um, the next one I have for you is what is your best piece of business advice? So not necessarily industry specific.
So I think my best piece of business advice that is just actually totally life advice too is to meditate, or if you don't resonate with the word meditate, spend time with yourself in stillness, learning yourself, training your mind to be quiet, training yourself to feel what's happening inside your body. There's so much stimulation around that we're constantly focused on what's going on around us, but we each have a totally unique language of our body, of our intuition. And once you spend time there, you can actually use that to help you navigate your life, navigate your business, not just from your mind, which is an awesome, amazing tool as well, but our intuition, our body is this whole other piece of intelligence that we're really not taught about. So when we can combine the mind and the strategizing and the linearity with the intuition, with the body, with the sensation, that takes everything to the next level. So the best way I know how to do that is to spend time with yourself in quiet stillness.
Yeah, I'm really happy you said that too because I'm going to start using that because sometimes when I tell people like you should meditate because as you know, I think you're aware of Alan Watts and stuff and like that guided meditation
Mm-hmm.
that I use a lot. But some people that are a little hesitant of meditation, they don't like that word. So if you
Mm-hmm.
just say spend some time with yourself, then I think that can open them up to maybe get into meditation.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like using different word because I think we make up so many rules about what that's supposed to mean, and then we sit down and we're like, oh, I can't quiet my mind, and then we shame ourselves, and it's like it's totally this, it's a spiral of just how we're supposed to do it. Just take yourself out of that, sit alone, and if you're just observing your thoughts for 10 minutes and your thoughts aren't quiet, like, hey, that's still amazing. You just were able to like observe where you're at, observe where your mind is, and that's powerful in itself. So you can just delete all of the rules that you have about what meditation means and just do it and let yourself be and just observe what comes up.
Yes. And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think it would be pace yourself. I have a lot of passion, a lot of fire, and so I can tend to be very like driven for the moment and driven for the short term and what I'm learning as I step into, more experience in my life is to really see what I'm building and see my life as a whole, see the bigger picture instead of just seeing what am I immediately getting out of this, but actually slowing down, enjoying the process, and zooming out to see
Mm,
what's happening as a whole.
mm. And I think that could kind of lead in nicely to this next one. So, in your opinion, what is the key to happiness?
So for me, what has really catapulted my happiness is tapping into my creativity, and how I do that is when I spend time alone with myself, learning myself, what I've come to discover is what it is that I'm craving from the world. And that is what I use to fuel my creativity. So I create and I paint the energies, the magic that I'm desiring out in the world. And it allows me to fill myself up in a way that's totally from the inside. So I was spending my life looking for my cravings from the outside world, and I wasn't seeing it anywhere. And I was like, man, this sucks. I really have this deep desire, this craving within me. And then one day I realized, like, oh, that's there because that's mine to create. And so now I do that through art, and it feels so good because I can access this craving, this desire that I have inside me that's not being satiated by the outside world. It's being satiated from within. So that, and I think also having really loving human connection.
Definitely, yeah. I think it is a combination of that. It could be different things for different people, but like I think like creation is like a very pleasurable thing, but maybe in the very beginning. And obviously, like my background's with books, so the best way for me to equate it is like, and I think it's the same thing with maybe artistry, like painting. Like maybe when you first look at the blank canvas or when you first look at the blank page to like start writing, it's a little painful because you're like, shit, like I don't know where to start. But like once you get into like that creation flow, it usually takes me like 15-20 minutes of just like typing nonsense and then it comes out. That is very pleasurable, but you got to get through that like initial like 10-20 minutes or so of, quote unquote pain. So I don't know, do you experience that all with painting or?
Yeah, so yes, sometimes. And oftentimes what I'm doing I'm doing creativity I'm painting to kind of get out of my head. And so a lot of times what I'll do is when I get overwhelmed with the bigness of it all, which is interesting, it's kind of a paradox of the question I just answered around zooming out, seeing the big picture. But in creativity, I try to zoom in and just look at what's the next step, what's the next thing that I know how to do. And I'll just take that step, and then the next step after that shows itself. So if I try to see the whole picture, it's actually extremely overwhelming in that scenario.
Yes. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Same thing with a book. Like you just got to start with like a chapter. Like you don't try to write the whole book. So yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And then talking about books again, what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from it?
So it's actually interesting. So the story that I shared with you at the beginning, after I moved into that house with those women, this book just like came to me. I really honestly don't even remember how it came, but it's called Awakening Intuition by Mona Lisa Schultz. And she is an MD and a PhD and a medical intuition. And so what her book is about is just talking about, she gets these intuitive knowings through reading people's energy. So she has the medical side and she understands what's happening on an anatomical level. And she gets imprints of energy. So she explains in the book how basically our thoughts, our beliefs, our mental and emotional patterns create our health and our body. And that was really the first time that anybody had ever presented me with this concept that, when you have a certain thought that you're thinking or an emotion that you're feeling, it's creating some sort of groove in your whole system, and that actually gets translated through your body. So I think I'm actually rereading the book right now, which is so funny because I didn't end up finishing it the first time, but I think that book really catapulted my entire interest and passion in self-healing and looking at the body, how we can manipulate the body for health through our thoughts, through our emotions, through our awareness. So how we can actually we're a lot more empowered in our health and our body than we're ever taught or we ever really realized. So that was a huge, huge shift for me.
And what is your favorite quote and why?
I love Dolly Parton. She says, find out who you are and do it on purpose. And I love that. I think that's just so freaking juicy that we all have our weirdness, our quirkiness, our unique skills, and just to really honor those and to nurture them and to just be who we are out loud. That's a really fun, exciting.
Agreed. I never heard that quote, but I love it.
yeah, so good.
So listen, thank you so much for coming on. The last one I have for you before we let you go is where's the best place for people to find you online?
So on Instagram is where I'm the most active, and I'm at Erinn with 2 N's.
Perfect. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.